All right. If you didn't get that already, I will send that link one more time in the chat for anyone that just came in, and I'll go ahead and turn it over to Samantha and Rin, our secretary and reporter, to go ahead and get started with today's session.
Hi everyone, I'm Samantha. I'm the secretary, and this meeting is about the documentation portfolio. I'm just going to start sharing my screen. All right, can you guys see it? Okay. All right, so we're going over the documentation portfolio, the competitive events guide. So essentially, the competitive events guide goes over the procedure, rules, and assessments for the events. And it also tells you the careers that are related to each event. They contain the rules, regulations, and the judging rubric that the judges will use for your event. And included is the link to, I don't know if you guys can see this, but the event guides here, it'll just pull up this. Here's the version with all of them. And you can just scroll through and find your events. Let me get back to it. Okay. And here is the event descriptions that is on tsaweb.org. I believe we went over this in the previous session. All right,
so the portfolio has a bunch of documentation materials, and these are required for each event. And it basically has like the process in which you should submit your materials. So each of these components must be like fully completed in order for you to get the most points possible. They are pretty descriptive. As you can see on the right, you'll have like usually like for events that require portfolio submissions, you'll have like a title page, table of contents, like defining the problem, and like some like just like background information gathering. I think this one is specifically for like engineering design, but each portfolio has different requirements that must be that have like points attached to it. So you should like strive to submit like each part of the portfolio.
All right, and so for the rubric included, it is based off a point system. There's minimal performance, there's adequate performance, and exemplary performance. And of course, you want to aim for the exemplary performance where it has all the components, is well organized, and so it like even goes like beyond of just what is required. And here's an example of this for engineering design.
So there've been like some submissions with that have gotten some like easy deductions, and one of them is the missing clear portfolio cover. You need to make sure to have these covers in order for the submissions to like be judged in the portfolio. And then just some like other small things, not following the correct documentation instructions. Each competitive events, like the entire competitive events guide has different sections for different events. And under each event, they have like clear directions for portfolio submissions and just other things required for the events. So you want to make sure you're following each step of this. And that also includes like missing like the table of contents, make sure that's there. And you do not want to include the name of your high school or chapter. Otherwise, points will be deducted or it could result in a disqualification. You will need your team ID. One other big thing is the work log. You'll want to have the work log that's on the TSA website. So make sure you go to the National TSA website and find the resources, and under that tab it'll have the work log included. So you want to have that exact template so we can judge like submissions fairly. And then make sure you follow the page requirements, have professional writing at all times, and make sure you cite all your resources you're using throughout your project, because it's really important for us to know like where you got your materials from, and make sure you're just giving credit to the sources. Make sure you're labeling your images and drawings and sketches so it's easy for us to like reference them throughout your portfolio submission. And next slide. So basically to get all the points, you just want to make sure you're following each step through the process. Make sure like everything is organized, pages are labeled, you're having detailed work and everything is like finalized. Basically make sure you're submitting something of good quality. And there are events with non-portfolio submissions. And for that, they'll just have different rubrics with specific judging criteria. And basically, like each event will have a rubric attached to it in the competitive events guide, which we have linked in this presentation that will be available to you soon.
Along with the how to get all points, carrying on. So you want to submit all of the components. It's not like they're not optional. You have to submit it, and you do have to submit them in the order that it's given. That's just how they want it to be. And if you're like an older chapter, something might have portfolios from the past years that you can look back on and see like what they did well, how you can improve it for your submission. And the lead, we're also with that, we have where you can submit previous projects, so you could look into that database. And so also using a professional portfolio setup, my group typically kind of bases it off of MLA format, where it's like the Times New Roman like double spaced. So you just want to make sure that it looks professional. It's kind of like a report. It's not just like a doc, like it has to be like professional. Yeah. All right. Are there any questions?
Samantha, if you refresh one more time, there's the events breakdown of what needs to be submitted for regionals as well as states. It's the slide right before questions.
Okay. Everyone still see it. All right. And so what do I submit for the regional conference? So we have a spreadsheet where it shows the date that needs to be, where everything needs to be submitted and what you have to submit. So this is just kind of making the competitive event guide in terms of what you need into a like easily digestible format. Like for like photographic technology, you need to have the portfolio uploaded by February 10th. So it'll just say when everything needs to be updated and what is required. And remember with regionals that it is a like compacted event competition this year. So it'll be online. It won't be, it will be online. So a few events will not be included.
But it's a really good opportunity for teams to get feedback on their submissions. So if you do choose to participate in this virtual competition, then you'll be better prepared for states and have like actual judges judge your submissions.
And here is the state conference eligibility one. It's the same format, but obviously it has more events because we're doing all the events that are in the national competitive events guide. And then we'll have our additional ones that we do in the state only. So you can see here, like engineering design, you have a PDF form that you need to submit for the portfolio, and your display and presentation are going to be on site, but you do have to have the materials ready for those. And everything will have to be uploaded by March 10th.
Real quickly before y'all go to questions, do you want to go into a event guide and kind of go through that of what it looks like within the portfolio section?
Oh, yeah, let me pull it up.
You can also go to the link Dr. Taylor sent afterwards.
Okay, thanks. So we're just going to choose probably engineering design just because that's the example that we used in the presentation. All right, so here's where it is. So this one is 8 pages, so it's not too long, but I'm going to zoom. All right, so it just has the overview here, and it has your eligibility requirements. So in eligibility, this is going to be sort of focused for nationals because it says per state. It's going to be different at our state competitions. I'm not sure about the eligibility for that, but I don't believe there's a qualifier for this event. And so you have the time limit, the 10 minutes presentation, 5 minutes for interview, and of course the TSA competitive attire you have to wear for this event. You can buy the TSA competitive shirt like the one I'm wearing on the TSA website.
Do you want to scroll down to the portfolio section?
Okay, yeah. All right, and so this also just kind of goes over what you need to have for pre-conference and goes over the preliminary rounds and semifinal rounds. Basically, everything you're going to need to know is going to be in here. So if you need like personalized questions, ask like your advisor or other team members, or you can contact us if you need to. All right, do you want to go with?
Yeah, so here,
Sorry,
you're good.
sorry, I clicked off.
You're good. So yeah, so this is one of the examples of a portfolio submission. Like we showed kind of on the slides, they'll have like basic documentation materials, and each bullet point is like, I guess, pretty detailed, especially if you go like later on, it'll have like identification, explanation of possible solutions. And they basically say like to give like concise narratives and just and they like for some of them they also give like the page number, so like some of them will be like 1 page, some of them can say up to 3 pages total. You want to make sure you're following that specific criteria, otherwise points will be deducted. And this is just for like simplicity of like a solution or helping judges kind of like, I guess, like look fairly through submissions. And then yeah, you just want to keep it like detailed, but also like make sure you're like labeling all of your like figures and like charts, because it's just easier for judges to review submissions. But yeah, otherwise the rest of these are pretty like specific to engineering design, but this is just like one example. And at the end, you're gonna have your plan of work log that details your efforts and your team members' efforts and like the specific time spent. You'll also need instructor initials just to make sure, like to verify. And you'll usually have a references and resources page. A professional citation style, like Samantha said, I think MLA works pretty well. And they also have, I guess, APA, Chicago, and for references, there's no like page limit, I guess, because you should definitely cite a resource you have. Yeah, so Samantha, or I guess you want to go to the link Dr. Taylor sent now?
Just one more thing about the plan of work log. You do have to use the plan of work log that is like on the TSA website. You can't like reformat the chart of your own. You do have to use the one that is provided. I think you will get deductions for that. All right, so here's an example of the Washington TSA engineering design portfolio. Here we go. And they have like the resource that we were setting up where you can see their previous ones. This is 25 pages long. Okay. Here's the table of contents. And so this is the identification of the problem. So you can kind of just see they have a lot of information, like clear pictures, because you do want people to be able to understand what's going on. They have possible solutions.
And you see how they like,
Yeah.
I guess, label their like figures and like like labeled like each step. Like that's pretty important for submissions, just so like it flows well.
And here, I'm going to scroll to the plan of work log. Here we go. So here is the example of the plan of work log. For time involved is going to be based on hours. So you just put the initials. You cannot put your full names on there. That will be either a deduction or a disqualification. And you should write the comments of what you did just so they can get more clear view. And also you can see with the dates that they didn't do the whole project all at once. They spread it out over the course of 3 months. And so, yeah, I'd recommend, don't wait till the last minute to complete the project. And as you can see, okay, so I guess the rules have changed. Their plan of work log is not correct because, or this plan of work log. All right, and here are the resources. So this is MLA format, and it's 3 pages long. And oh yes, the copyright checklist. Not all events will have anything will have copyrighted materials. But if you do use any, or even if you're required to have one, just if you don't know if you have to have one, I'd say have one just in case. And I believe we're the state officer team. We're going to share our personal experiences with the portfolio. So,
all right, I'm just going to jump in here really quick, and I'm going to talk a little bit about my experiences with the whole portfolio. So hi, if you don't know me, I'm Arushi Singh, and I am the state vice president this year. So one of the events that I've primarily done is biotechnology design. And if you don't know, that is one of our most popular events. And sadly, one of the events where often people do not read all of the rules that come with it. So if you're not familiar with biotech, it has 2 pretty balanced sections, I say, of some kind of display, which in previous years has been either a trifold or during virtual years was a slideshow presentation with interactive elements, and also a portfolio that goes along with it. So often people neglect the portfolio aspect because they're so hung up on the display and they make it look wonderful and they come up with such an amazing topic. And then you open their documentation and it's like 3 sentences strung together and they don't explain how they got there, why they got there. So this was one of those reasons why we wanted to make this presentation so that people realize that judges aren't just judging your model, especially in those events that have both a model and a portfolio. Because both parts are equally as important, because the judges don't want to just see the final event or the final result. They want to see how you got there. They want to see the kinds of trials, the kinds of errors that you went through. So one of those really funny examples that I sometimes bring up from personal experience, during my freshman year in high school, I did biotechnology design and I competed in both regionals and states. So in regionals, we had a pretty solid project, if I do say so myself, but we did not place in our regionals, which there were many amazing projects. But during states, we really went through the project. We went through our citations. We looked over the guidelines again. We made pretty much corrections to our portfolio. We made sure everything was formatted correctly. One of the funniest things, we added picture citations to our online display because it was COVID year. And we actually ended up winning biotech that year. And that really can show you that display, that portfolio, really putting that extra care can make such a difference. Because I can tell you for a fact, if we did not take that extra time before states and go through our presentation and really make sure that we were adhering to every guideline, we definitely would not have won. So this is just another plead from us as the officer team, because even though we try our best to break down all of the guidelines into bite-sized pieces, we sometimes do not get through it all. So please, before any competition, be reading through those guidelines and making sure that you follow every single little piece of the rubric. Yeah, and with that, I'm going to open the floor just specifically to questions focused on documentation. We'll have time later for general questions later.
Before we do that, I'm just going to interject. Just you guys make sure, even if, if you're doing multiple events, right, and you look at the rubric for children's stories and you see what you need for children's stories portfolio, don't assume that's what you need for all your other portfolios. Look at each portfolio on a case-to-case basis, because what they need to contain is different for most events. You're rarely going to find 2 events that are going to have the exact same portfolio requirements. So make sure you're looking through each event or each rubric on an event by event basis. Now questions.
Yeah, and just what Rushi was saying, I pulled it up. The model for engineering design is 40 points. The portfolio is 110. So just keep in mind the portfolio, you do have you can't neglect it, especially if it's high scoring part of the project. All right, sorry.
If you have a document specific question, you can just use the raise hand feature, and then we will just kind of call on you so that we're not all speaking at the same time.
I wanted to know, in the portfolio, when you have to do a day log, do you do it like the day of, or when you finish your project, do you try to remember everything that you did on certain days?
So I would suggest, and I think we all have the same view on this, doing it while you're actually completing your work so that you are accurately documenting your work log. So just whenever you're done with your, TSA meeting, or if you're working on it alone, just jot down some notes. It doesn't have to be formal or anything in the moment, but just jot down kind of what you did, give a rough time frame so that you have those notes for the future if you want to, go back and edit that plan of work log. But yeah, definitely do it while you're completing your event.
My recommendation for that would be write that information down in a Google document that you designate for your plan of work log stuff. And then kind of once you have, I think it's 6 that fits on one of the plan of work log sheets, then put it into a plan of work log. I've always had problems getting the plan of work log to save. So that way you're still keeping accurate with what you actually did that day, but not risking losing that work, or at the very least, just make sure you have it somewhere other than just the plan of work log in case it doesn't save.
Yeah, and really quickly, I just want to add to what Ren and Abby were saying. Personally, the way, every team typically does this a little bit different. The way that my teams do it is that right at the beginning, when we start working on our project, we create a rough plan of what we want to do about when we want to do it. So we'll be like, okay, on this day, we're probably going to work on something to do with the portfolio. And then as we actually go to those meetings and our plans change a little bit, we change that plan. And then at the very, very end, we format it all onto the actual document, because as Ren said, that document can be a little bit confusing at times.
Any other questions?
All right, if there's no other questions specifically on documentation, then we have a few more things just to share. Samantha, do you want me to share my screen so that I can go through the TSA Tuesday just to share stuff about lead and t-shirt and pin design?
Sam.
Oh, I was muted. Yeah, go ahead.
You're good. Let me see. Can everybody see the TSA Tuesday? Does that work?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. Yes. Everybody good? Okay. All right. So this is our TSA Tuesday. Dr. Taylor does a great job of getting this out every Tuesday with all the necessary information updated. So this is our most current one. I'm just going to go through a little bit of what we have. So of course, all of our leadership sessions. We have one, this is just on Tuesday due to Halloween being yesterday. I hope everybody had a good time if they celebrated. And then next week it will be back on Monday, so it will be the 7th. And we're going to be talking about displays and how to accurately do a interactive display. And then we have just some other, events that will be going on and kind of a rough draft of our schedule for the year. And I'm just going to go through some quick things that I want to point out. So again, virtual leadership sessions, everything is here, all of the ones we have left. And we will have some at the beginning of next year, but these are just our ones for this year. We have information about regional conference, and this is what I want to get to right here. So for some of you in the past, if you've been a part of TSA in the past 3 years, you've probably heard us mention NCTSA Lead. This was implemented my first year as a state officer right before state conference at regionals. And its purpose is to engage leaders and allow for student members within NCTSA to expand their outreach and their leadership as a member. So LEAD stands for Leadership, Engagement, Activities, and Development. And this is a point system to where you get points for doing any of the 5 categories: mentorship, ACS involvement, NCTSA outreach, and the project vault, as well as leadership sessions. So you can do anywhere from mentoring within your chapter to other chapters in the area. There's ACS involvement. So if you're planning a fundraiser or you're doing a community service event for ACS, so like making cards or promotion posts. There's also NCTSA outreach. So I myself have helped other schools within the county start a TSA chapter. So by setting up an interest meeting, and we have all of those resources available. If this is something you'd like to do, you could get points for setting up an interest session for another school in your county. As well as, I know either Samantha or Ria had mentioned earlier that we are trying to start a project vault like Washington TSA, and you would be able to donate past TSA projects if you place in the top 3 states for points. And we would of course have plagiarization assurance forms so that nothing was stolen or reused. And then we also have what you're doing right now, the NCTSA leadership sessions. So if you're actively participating in these leadership sessions, then you can get points for that. So this will go into a point system, and you'll be recognized at state conference on the bronze, silver, and gold levels. And we have different levels per points. And we have a Google form. I think I can drop that in the chat, or I will after I finish sharing my screen. But you will fill out this Google form if it's something you're interested in, and then we will add you to a Google Classroom where you'll be able to submit all of your different events, whichever one you choose to submit. So the project vault, the leadership sessions, or anything like that, you will have a specific designated area to submit that. And you can always reach out to team44_president at nctsa.org if you have any questions. And then my next thing that I wanted to go over is our NCTSA state t-shirt and pin design. So this is for the 2023 state conference, and every year we open it up for student members to design our state pin as well as our t-shirt. And this is a really great opportunity because we would sell those shirts and all of NCTSA would be able to wear your design, which I think is really cool, and it would represent us at national conference. This is going to be participants are limited to 5 teams per chapter with 1 entry per team, and teams can consist of up to 2 students. This is for the pin design. Entries must be started and completed during the current school year, and they will need to be sent to stateadvisor@nctsa.org by 11:59 on January 13th. So plenty of time to go through that. Let's click on the rubric real quick. So this is going to be the pin design rubric again, and it will give you your eligibility, your limits, your procedures and guidelines, and how you would submit your sample, and give you your rubrics as well. We just talked about portfolio, so this should be very familiar concept. Make sure you're reading your rubric whenever you're submitting for a competition, that's the best way to guarantee success, because you know what you're going to be judged on, and you are able to see if your example or if your project fits within that exemplary performance. I think that's one of the biggest things that we can stress for this and your other projects. But yeah, so that's all with the pin design. And then with t-shirt, it's roughly the same as far as eligibility. And these will be needed to be submitted on the same date of 11:59 on January 13th. And we can go through that rubric as well. It's pretty much the same format, just a little bit different on the procedures and guidelines. So, and the theme for this year is the legacy of innovation. So that will be tying in on both of the pin design and t-shirt design. But yeah, we definitely encourage you to submit these, because it is, again, a great way to get your designs out to a state level and be involved with NCTSA. Let's see. If you were at our last session, we will have a new middle school event for 2023, and that's going to be Drone Maker, as well as on-demand video. And if you were at our last meeting, you know that we have, I think, 3 new high school events, audio podcasting, there's visual realization, VR, and then I think the mass production just changed the name. Oh, high school drones. Yes, we will have a high school version, and this middle school event for Drone Maker is only in CTSA. And yeah, so this is a great way to keep up to date. If you would like to be, on this emailing list, you can direct message one of us in the chat. But does anybody have any questions about that information that we just shared? Is everybody good? Any questions? I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so I can see everybody.
Arishi, check your chat.
All right, one thing really quick, if everybody could tell us in chat what school they're coming from, that would be awesome, just so that we can see a little bit of where everyone is from. And also, one thing that I did not get to mention earlier when I was talking about biotechnology, I just want to let you know that in chat, Dr. Taylor put a wonderful example from Washington TSA for biotechnology. As we know, that is a very popular event. So I would definitely recommend looking at that one.
Students, you'll also see TSA Tuesday on the website as well. You can go to nctsa.org and click on one of the tabs at the top right-hand side, and it'll take you directly to the folder that has all of the TSA Tuesdays. I'm glad to see that we have so many schools here. Y'all had a chance to look at the chat, a good representation from the high schools as well as some middle schools. Also on our North Carolina TSA YouTube channel, these presentations are going to be saved there and uploaded there. For the live sessions, you have to click on, oh my goodness. Officer team, tell me where they got hidden at.
I believe it's called past streams.
Past streams. So make sure you check it, past streams.
Live.
Yeah,
it should also come up if you look up NC or North Carolina TSA on YouTube. Those live streams will come up as well as in the search. But you can go to that past live streams on the channel. All right. Are there any questions about anything that we've talked about so far, or anything that you've been wondering about? Let's see. Okay, who is this their first year of TSA? Just do the little raise hand chat, or you can send something in the chat. You new people. I see 2. Very good, very good. But we're glad to have you. That's great news. All right, well, if y'all don't have any questions, that will be all for tonight unless anybody has anything else to add. Okay, hearing nothing. Thank you for all coming. We will have another session Monday at 7:45. I believe that's November 7th. And it will be all about an interactive display and what are the key components of it. So we can't wait to have everybody there, and we hope we see you all.